Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to talk about composition strategies and you're going to need this worksheet here, which should be in your journal and in my class, and this worksheet here, which should also be in your journal. And you're going to need two colors of markers or crayons or colored pencils. You could do paint, two different colors. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I want you to notice is the bolded words. Well, you'll notice that emphasis, rhythm, unity, balance, movement, emphasis, contrast, and proportion. Those are all principles of design here. And so to understand composition, we need to know the definitions of these things. So you have these written out for you. The other thing is composition refers to the placement or arrangement of the elements of art. So the elements of art are actually on the other side here. So how we arrange value, how we arrange the forms, the colors, the textures, the shapes, the spaces, and the lines is really what composition is about. And so we're going to do some drawing on this page, and I'm going to also show you some examples from some works of art. So the first one is isolation to create emphasis. And I just wanted to really quickly, emphasis is one area that has dominance, attracts the most attention, and is used to highlight one aspect of art more than the others, creating a focal point, right? So for example, if you would draw along with me, if I were to have all these X's over here in a group, but you wanted your focal point to be over here. That space there, that isolation creates emphasis, and the viewer's eye is going to go there. So you might want to put something really important with space in between to create that emphasis. Let me show you in a famous work of art. So this is a famous work of art by an artist named Wyeth, and he created isolation between the girl and the house and the barn, and that creates a really big emphasis on the girl in the field. You can't help but look at her. Really creates a point of interest, and you kind of wonder what's going on with this girl. The next composition strategy is using rhythm to create unity. So rhythm is like a repetition of something, and unity is using elements to create a whole work of art. And, you know, kind of like holding hands and singing Kumbaya, it is bringing things together. So, for example, if I have a group of objects like that, if I repeat that group other places, and in different angles, it creates a sense of unity because of the rhythm. Let's look at an artist that did this. Here is a work of art by Robert Delaney, and you can see that there are so many repeated circles and colors, but mostly circles, that it creates a sense of unity within the painting. The next one is symmetrical balance, and if you'll notice, we have symmetrical and asymmetrical balance. So I'm going to kind of talk about these together. Symmetrical balance is where things are even on both sides. So for example, if I had something the same on the left as it is on the right, So there I was trying to make a butterfly, but you'll notice, and I'll use a different color, it is the same on left and right. That is symmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance is where things are not quite the same on either side, but they still carry the same visual weight. So for example, maybe I have a large rectangle over here, and instead of that, maybe I have some circles that take up the same visual weight over here. Not even on both sides, but still balanced in some way. Let's look at some examples in works of art. Here's a work of art by Perugino. It's actually in the Sistine Chapel, and this is very symmetrically balanced, meaning on the left and on the right it carries the same equal visual weight. It's basically the same, and you can see in the distance there's some different people. They're not exactly the same or in the exact same position, but visually it is pretty symmetrical. This next example is, this next example here is where things are asymmetrically balanced. I actually don't know the artist here. It might just be a sketch where things on the right aren't exactly the same as things on the left, but they carry the same visual weight. So on the right there's one large tree, whereas on the left there are 4 trees. And here is another example of the difference between symmetrical and asymmetrical balance. The next composition strategy is movement, and it's not actually where the work of art moves, but it is the suggestion or illusion of action, something that guides your eye around the work of art. So you could use lines, and I'm just going to use shapes, but for example, our eye will follow these ovals even if they're not physically connected, and even if there's no line there. Our eye will naturally go left to right. If we were in an Eastern, like we're in the Western world, so a lot of times we start left to right, but if we were reading Japanese, they read top to bottom, I think right to left. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But so in our language, in English, we read left to right. So our eye is going to start here, and it's just going to follow these dots. Let's look at a work of art and where the artists use movement. This work of art is by Hokusai. It's very famous, and this is a wave, and you can see that your eye kind of focuses and follows on that wave, and it kind of keeps going round and round within that wave, and then you'll kind of notice, oh, there are actually boats in the water and other details, but this is a very good example of movement in a work of art. Our next composition strategy is rule of thirds for focal point, and focal point is emphasis. So if you were to draw a grid on your picture plane here, and this would be something maybe if you're taking a picture, it is in your viewfinder or on your cell phone, you can turn this grid on and off. And the idea of the rule of thirds is that the picture plane is divided up into thirds vertically and thirds horizontally. And the focal point can be on any one of these intersections here, but not in the middle. Okay, so you could have the focal point, I'm just going to have the focal point be right here. I'm going to fill that in. So the green is not really part of the artwork, just the red or the purple is. So I want to show you this in a work of art. Here is a work of art by John Singer Sargent, and you can see that the subject matter is not in the center. That's the focal point is not in the center. It actually follows these rule of thirds. And if we put the grid on, you can see that the subject matter, the people and the airplane, fall on two different intersections of the rule of thirds. The last two I grouped together ways to create emphasis, and these are color contrast and size and proportion. So color contrast is basically our eye picks up color really easily, and when there is one color that is different, it takes the viewer eye to that color. So it creates an emphasis where there is a different color. Let's look at a work of art that uses this. All right, so this is Van Gogh's portrait, and he uses the color contrast of orange and blue to create some emphasis, specifically around his beard. Blue and orange are opposites on the color wheel, and so that orange really pops out and makes it have that contrast and guides your eye to that focal point. Last but not least is size, proportion, or scale. Sometimes we say scale. So for example, if we have a whole bunch of small dots, and then we have one large dot, our eye naturally finds this as the focal point because of the proportion or the size relationship of one part to another. Let's look at how an artist has used proportion. This series of sculptures is by Jeff Koons, and he created larger than life balloon sculptures. And so when we think of balloon sculptures, we think of something that will fit in your hand, and he used out of proportion to create these huge, gigantic balloon sculptures. So these are our composition strategies that we went over today, and what I'd like you to do is in your works of art during this semester, you should use at least one of these in the way that you create, and it will give you a much stronger composition and a work of art that is a little bit more professional than not using one of these. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.